pleased to be here, although this talk disappeared from the app, so thank you for those of you who have shown up anyway. So, ABIS is a 30-year-old startup, mostly based in Paris, where I worked for a number of years, and now with a new US branch as well. We're not here to extol the virtues of voice technology. There are lots of other people who are doing this, and we are very grateful to them for all the wonderful technology that they're making available to us. We're here today to talk about how to get that voice technology to do something useful. So our specialty is helping companies, businesses, solve complex problems by leveraging human intelligence. And in this case, marrying that human intelligence to the power that is provided by a vocal interface. So our clients were asking us to look into this, and we've started preparing various vocal interfaces for various business types of applications. So the one that I'm going to show today actually comes from an example for a medical practice. So scheduling patients and getting them in to see the doctor in order. So this is entirely live. This is going to be demoed. This is the demo equivalent of flying without a net, because this is a very noisy room, and I'll see if the bot, which is based on standard freely available APIs, can filter out the background noise and still hear me. So pretend now that you're a patient, you want an appointment to see your doctor. Wi-Fi willing. Okay, great. Wi-Fi is not cooperating. Let's try this again. The dangers of a live presentation.
This is the digital assistant for the receptionist, Suzanne Rogers. Are you at the medical office, yes or no?
Okay, it's asking if I'm at the medical office because I've obviously turned off my geo positioning. No.
Dear Bruce Epstein, would you like to book the first available appointment at 12:10 p.m., yes or no?
Okay, in case you didn't hear it, it asked me if I wanted to take the first appointment at 12:10 p.m. Now granted, all bots would be able to do that up until there. But 12:10 p.m. is 3 minutes from now. There's no way I could get to the medical office by then. So I'd like to take an appointment for later in the afternoon. And I don't know about your experience, but my experience with similar bots is it would then lead me down a very long set of choices about how to find the next appointment, that one that meets my schedule. But we didn't choose to follow a script or a dialogue, but rather analyze how people use these apps. And so I can just go 2 p.m.
The appointment at 2 p.m., the closest to your request, is confirmed.
And I have my appointment at 2 p.m. without going through all the complete conversation, because it's transaction-based, not conversation-based. So please come see us over at booth K14. We'd love to talk to people who are looking to make, as the previous speaker said, their voice interfaces awesome. And we're also looking for people who are, like we are, thinking about how to put the human back in the midst of the human machine system. Thank you very much for your attention and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Once again, welcome to the Voice Summit. Bruce just finished up his demo, and Bruce, thank you for coming to demo that technology.
Great. Thanks, Ian. I'm delighted to be here. I'm delighted to have this opportunity.
It's great. Why should folks come to the Voice Summit next year? Like, what are your expectations for this event, and why are you taking your energy and time to be here?
Oh, it's clear. This is the primary event for anything having to do with voice, vocal technologies. The energy here is fantastic.
Yeah.
The innovation is in the air. The speakers have been wonderful. This is just the place to be. And Newark it's amazing to see the city.
Yes, it is. Well, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you, and thank you for tuning in. I'll be right back with the next interview.
We were selected as one of the 3 finalists for the Best Design Conversation Award from Voice Summit.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it's a big achievement for us, and
Yeah.
we are here to share how we got there.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Well, we'll be right back in just a moment with Leo on the main stage. And they were finalists for the best voice design here at the summit. And so we're really excited to have Leo come and talk about what Loud Voice Services is doing. Leo, please come on up and do this demo for us. We are looking forward to it.
Thank you. Hey guys, come and learn about what we are doing here at Loud, so please join us, come closer to us. So, I'm Leo, I'm one of the co-founders of Loud Voice Services, and I'm here to share more about our view on conversational design. Please raise your hand, and we have a short team, so please raise your hand really, if you have developed anything for non-English languages. It's a challenge, right? And have you ever developed a bot that is proactive, that actually calls you to tell you something? Well, by solving those problems, we were selected by Voice Summit as one of the 3 finalists for the Best Conversational Design Award of the year. And how did we get there? How did this crazy Brazilian got to that level of sophistication? Well, the best way to tell you is sharing our story and sharing a bit of our work. Our story starts exactly 10 days before Google announced Google Duplex, their technology to carry on and sustain natural conversations, to execute real-world tasks over the phone, a true personal assistant. And it caught our attention, and the reason were twofold. First, it was about the complexity of a natural conversation. No control over the journey. And secondly, it was a solid use case, a real-world problem. Everyone here has already made a call to schedule an appointment. So 10 days before that, we launched in Brazil a personal assistant that helps Brazilian consumers interacting with call centers. The best way to explain what we did is showing our work. So I have a video here. Oops, no sound. Team. No sound. We need sound for a video, right? We need a voice. Okay, now we have a voice. Let's see. No voice. I will have my microphone here, so I will approach my mic. move on. Guys, I will move on, but I have good news. We have a table here on the Startup Alley, so we can do one-on-one interactions, and you guys can have better conversation around the case. We'll be there. But basically, the way we are approaching the design of a conversation at Loud is based on the foundation of our company. We are focusing on helping large companies, enterprise, solving business problems through the use of voice technology. And we have built a product to accomplish that, and we call it Conversation Chamber. It works like a conversation maestro, and it has 3 pillars. First, we have an omni-channel approach. But don't think about technology. Think about the experience. Having the same persona across any channel, having the same voice across any channel, continuing conversation across any channel without losing context. That's what we do. It's ready. We have an omni-service approach. So let's say you have a large enterprise using a Watson as an LU tool, but they need a voice that is female and it's only available on Microsoft, for example. And they need an STT that connects to their industry, accents, languages, that is only available on Google, for example. How can you build an experience, a solid one, on such a fragmented landscape? That's what we do. Again, it's ready for plug and play with us. And thirdly is carrying a one-on-one conversation. You need customized data for that. So scheduling the installation of your cable TV on your home, you need to contact and interact with an agent that will negotiate time and date, will confirm if you have paid on any given fees, and will dispatch the team on a service desk of their own. We take care of that regardless of the platform, regardless of the service that you may use to provide a solid, again, conversation. And when we talk about conversation, we talk about design of the conversation. And for that, I want to invite Jiba, our partner and chief designer at Loud.
Thank you, Leo, for sharing this stage. Well, we developed the Canceller, which was a bot to cancel contracts in contact centers. So we developed in 3 weeks. The first problem we faced was finding a voice gateway that made outbound calls using NLP structures. For that, we made a chamber that solved that problem. The second problem was the bot was not the assistant, he was the client, he was the customer. So that implied multiple personas. And for that, for instance, a male customer must be a male voice and a female customer must be a female voice. So we created multiple voice configuration on the chamber that the conversation could communicate with tags with the chamber and change that in runtime. The third problem was the essence of the canceller. The operator not always want to help us to cancel the contract. So the operator seeks for any chance to end the conversation, alleging, for instance, lack of comprehension or the presence of a robot. So we needed to pass a little Turing test, which our bot, not allowing them to realize that we're talking to a robot. So for that, we used contextual variables and Elvis Java Spring evaluation on the conversation to change a little bit the structure of the text so we couldn't respond something like, okay, well, this was the third time you asked me for my tax ID number. Is there any problem with it? So this kind of decision was made in runtime. And the counselor taught us the voice is not only technology. voice, designing voice automatic speaking is about experience and solving real life problems. And thank you for your attention. Visit us in Startup Alley. That's all for now.
Guys are one of the finalists, so congratulations. Great demo. There's always sometimes technical issues. One day we'll just tell machines what to do with our voice. It'll do it all. We won't have any of these issues. We're almost there. We're almost there. So congratulations. I think the big question I have as we kind of wind down for this portion with you is, why Voice Summit? Why are you here? Why does this event matter? And why are you investing the time and energy to be part of this? And what can we do to better serve you?
Well, the voice is the essence of our business, and we think voice is plugged into technology too much, and our business is give the companies a more natural way to do voice technology without thinking a lot of technology. We seek to solve all the technological problems so we can focus on experience and interaction.
Yeah. Well,
Can I add?
yeah.
So again, I think the technology of voice is pretty new.
Yeah.
Everyone is pretty excited about what it can be done. There's
Yeah.
a sense that it can be huge. And I believe that gathering the entire community to discuss, to evolve, to help each other is key for the future of our business.
Well, thank you for being here. It was nice to meet both of you. And we'll be right back with the next interview. I am here with Jeff Adams, the CEO of Cobalt, with an incredible background. Amazon, Nuance, been working stuff with the voice industry for a long time. Tell us about what you hope to accomplish as you do the demo on the main stage.
Well, it's a little bit counterintuitive. I spent 3 years of my life building Alexa, and now I want to talk about things that you can do with speech that don't involve Alexa. So I want to move beyond the image that everything is connected to a smart speaker and so forth. So I want to talk about my 10 favorite applications that don't involve a smart speaker.
All right. Well, I hope you're looking forward to it as much as I am. We'll be right back. So, Jeff, take it away. We're looking forward to seeing what you've been working on.
All right, hi. So, a little closer. Okay. So I spent 25 years of my life building speech recognition and other technology, including 3 years building the Amazon Echo, the Alexa platform. But now I want to, maybe a little bit out of character, I want to tell you my 10 favorite applications that don't involve a smart speaker, Alexa or her friends, all right? All right. Can you guys hear me okay? Okay, better now? All right. So, number 10, by the way, I'm a little bit biased. Some of these we have helped work on at Cobalt, but not all of them. So some of these are just things that I've seen in the industry that I think are fascinating. So our friends at Village Technologies are building a smart baby speaker, a smart baby monitor that can, listen to your baby, and you can listen in from the other room how your baby's doing. But it will also monitor your baby's speech development. So you'll be able to track over time, oh, my baby's starting to vocalize, starting to make sounds, consonants and vowels, oh, now they're words, and so forth. And you can track your baby. It'll also give you a chance to notice that maybe there might be an issue, there's some delay in development or something like that. So I think that's a fascinating application. Number 9, air traffic controllers. So with the rise of unmanned aerial vehicles, increasingly these things are going to have to talk to the air traffic control towers to be able to cross airspace or land on a runway or whatever. And I think that's a fascinating application. It's got the technologies can't be in the cloud. It's got to be all on the plane. And so the plane has to be able to recognize what to say, speak to the tower, recognize what the tower says back, and then land appropriately. All right, that's my number 9. Number 8, animal audio analytics. Now, technically, this is not really voice or speech technology, at least not human voice or speech technology, but there are an increasing number of companies that are worried about analyzing the sounds that animals make to tell if they're healthy, if there's an issue, and so forth. One of these that I don't have permission to use their name, so I won't, but they're developing a dog collar to detect when your dog starts behaving differently than it had, and that would include perhaps listening to their vocalization, their barks, and figure out if maybe there's something wrong, you need to go pay attention to the dog. All right, let's move on to number 7. Number 7, alternate microphones. Our friends in Israel at VocalZoom have developed a vibrometer that is a visual optical sensor that can read the vibrations in your cheek or your neck and pick up your speech from that, from the optical watching of the skin vibrations. And now that's a great application, especially in a very noisy, like in this room, very noisy, because there's no interference from all the ambient noise. You're directly picking up on the vibrations there. And we actually worked with them to develop speech recognition and biometrics technology to work on this vibrometer, this optical signal. All right. So let's see, how am I doing? Am I convincing you yet that there are interesting speech applications that are not, that's not me, right? That are not intelligent assistants, that are not connected to a smart speaker. Number 6, my friends at AgVoice. Bruce, raise your hand. Bruce is here. He's the CEO of AgVoice. They've got a hands-free data gathering assistant for agriculture workers. Often the workers in agriculture have to be in the field with their hands busy. And in this case, this guy is actually tasting some of the corn to be able to report on the corn. It's hard to do that. It's hard to do that with while you're also trying to take notes. And so it's a voice-controlled data gathering assistant for agriculture workers. Language learning assistant. I'm going to call out, there's a lot of companies that are doing work in this. I'm going to call out my friends at my alma mater, Brigham Young University, who have opened up a lot of their courses to foreign students that can take the courses from wherever they are in often in developing countries. But in order to get into the courses, they have to first take a language assessment test to make sure that they can speak English and understand English well enough to participate in the class. And so we've worked with them to develop some technology for them to take a simple test with a microphone to tell how well they comprehend and can speak English and get on with that. I'll point out that a lot of these applications you can't use with a smart speaker like Alexa because it's a closed system. They don't give you access to the audio, so you can't analyze how clear was their speech and so forth. Number 4, I love these guys. They're also in Israel. VoiceIt are developing speech recognition technology for people with speech disorders, dysarthric speech or non-standard speech. And they have traditionally been left out of the speech interface world, but VoiceIt is developing technology to bring that accessibility to them. And I think they're doing great work, and I'm excited about where that might go. Number 3, accent reduction. Our friends at Geppetto are developing technology to reduce or remove accents, and their first target market is call center workers in, let's say, India or Pakistan or Philippines or somewhere where the people have a strong accent and they're helpful. They're giving you what you need, but the accent can be off-putting. And so we're developing technology to reduce or remove their accent so that they can talk to you and they sound like they're from Minnesota or, I don't know, wherever. Maybe not Minnesota. I don't know. Anyone here from Minnesota? Sorry. Number 2, a sub-smart speaker. Now, I said these didn't include smart speakers, but in this case, I'm making an exception. This is an application I think is kind of cool. We have some friends at Edge Speech who are investigating the possibility of a voice assistant to be distributed throughout a ship for the Navy, a large ship. And it would include the usual things that you might find in a smart speaker. Okay, maybe not asking for sports scores or playing music, but maybe asking about the heading or other functions that you might need in a ship. And it also would include biometrics to make sure that the person asking has the authority to say, fire the torpedo. They probably wouldn't do that by voice, but whatever it is. And finally, my number 1 favorite application is early detection of disease and other conditions from our friends at Canary Speech, who I understand are following me in the presentation. So stick around and you'll hear my friend Henry tell you about Canary Speech. So Canary Speech are using speech to analyze using your speech to analyze and detect early signs of dementia, Parkinson's, schizophrenia, stroke, other kinds of conditions that are often easier and more accurately detectable through your speech than through other methods. I think this is amazing, and I look forward to the day in 5 years when I go to the doctor and they take my temperature and they take my blood and they take my speech and they put it through a speech panel and come back and make that part of the the checkup. All right, and I think that's it. I think that's the end of my my slides.
Well, I don't know if I'm on. There we turn me up. Hello, hello. Jeff, that was incredible. It's a presentation like this that causes me to say, hello, future. Nice to meet you. You know, imagine a world where when a telemarketer calls you, it's in the accent that you want. That was number 3. Or a world where you go to the doctor and you speak and they can diagnose you. These are the types of things that really get me excited beyond just saying an alarm, right? So, Jeff, thank you so much. If people want to get this list, how do they get in touch with you? Is this posted anywhere? Bring it close.
I haven't posted it yet, but I'd be happy to share it with anyone. We have a kiosk just over here around the corner. And I should say that there's something missing from the list, and I don't know what it is, because maybe you know what it is. So come and bring me your favorite idea, and we can work on it together. We're at Cobalt Speech just around the corner over here.
So head over to Cobalt and bring your ideas so you can add number 11, 12, and 13 to the list. Jeff, thank you. We'll be right back with our next demo. Welcome to the Voice Summit. We just got an incredible demo by Jeff, the CEO of Cobalt. Wow, that was mind-blowing. The 10 top things that you can do with voice. So, of the 10, what are you personally most excited about?
I really think the one I'm personally most excited about is canary speech. This idea of detecting disease through speech. I think that has the potential to change the world in important ways.
Well, I absolutely agree. And the next person I have with me is Henry, the CEO of Canary Speech. So right on time. Jeff, thank you for being here.
Thank you very much, Ian.
We'll be right back. Welcome to the Voice Summit. My name is Ian Utilli. I'm here with Henry O'Connell, the CEO of Canary Speech, who's working on some incredibly exciting technology. You have to wait about 1 minute to get the demo. But Henry, you're from Provo, Utah, is that what?
Provo, Utah.
Provo,
That's
Utah?
right. Very good.
So tell us about why Voice Summit. Why are you here to demo your tech? Why is this event important to you?
Well, communicating what we're doing is very important. This is an excellent place to do that. It's specialized in the area of speech and voice, and it's just a wonderful event. We're trying to get the word out about the things we're doing.
Yes.
We have new patents in the area, and we have new applications that I'll talk about, which I think will be exciting.
Good. Well, we can't wait to hear what you have to share. I think it's important for humanity, the thing that you're working on, and you'll find out more about that as we're back on the main stage in just one moment. This is Henry, the CEO of Canary Speech. I know about the technology more than I know about the specific company. Imagine a world where, I'm going to let you take it away. I'm not going to take any thunder from you. But here we go. I can't wait to see this demo and hear what you're going to share. Please.
Thank you. I always begin by telling people that at our core, we're a speech and language company. We're a speech and language company that has specialized in the application of identifying human condition and disease from conversational speech. I'm sorry, it's not moving. Thank you. Now, Jeff was just up on stage a little bit ago. Jeff and I met 27 years ago. I was at the National Institutes of Health, and Jeff was at the NSA, which is a much cooler job than the NIH. Jeff and I remain lifelong friends. He went on to a career in speech and language. We met shortly after that, after he finished working on a couple of major projects. We met and discussed and built and created Canary Speech. What we wanted to do was we wanted to advance the field in such a way that it could be meaningful. The analysis of word patterns and tonal qualities can provide information concerning disease and human condition. But I had a story. I asked Jeff. I have a daughter. I have 5 children. All of them live out of the house now. I can promise you that each and every one of you have had this experience. I call my daughter, Caitlin. Within moments of talking to her, I'll ask her the question, honey, what's up? It has nothing to do with the words that she is speaking. I am able, through my experience with her, to understand what her emotions are simply by a few moments of conversation. And I promise you, just like you are, I'm horrendously accurate to the point of irritation. Tell me what's going on. What we did was we identified 2,500 plus biomarkers in speech. From those biomarkers, if you go on. Oh, you fixed it. Thank you. I actually went through about my entire thing here. Oh, so look at this. All right. What we did was we said, what is the real challenge that people are having? If you actually ask yourself, how much time am I spending with my medical care, it's far less than 0.1%. We need to extend the technology that we have in an accurate, easy, non-invasive way to connect the technology of our medical field with the lives of our people. And so what we did was we took these 2,500 biomarkers and we were able to identify a number of different diseases within those markers. Alzheimer's disease, for instance, we use 13 of those markers from which we build a mathematical model. That model has a 97% accuracy from a 3-minute sample of speech. And that sample is conversational. We're not asking them to do a cognitive study. We're not asking them to do a brain test. We're simply talking to them. We're interacting with individuals in the environment in which they find themselves. We did the same thing with depression, stress, anxiety, Parkinson's. We're starting studies in essential tremor, and we're engaged in a childhood cancer study in which what we're measuring are quality of life issues. And we're doing it not just for the patients in the study, which is critical, but we're also measuring it for the parents of the patients in the study. So we're looking at their stress and their anxiety and how they're doing. And we're doing this in their homes. We have taken this technology and we've brought it to both the clinic, the home environment, and we've done analysis on calls between nursing staff and homebound patients. And we're able to identify stress and anxiety while the conversation is ongoing, guiding the individual through a conversation. In PTSD, for instance, when a patient presents themselves in an environment in our armed services, it's difficult to say to them, tell me how stressed you are. Tell me how anxious you are. It's much easier to ask them, tell me about the fishing trip you did with the kids. If we can measure the same vital and critical information from conversational speech and do it in the environment in which the individual lives and feels comfortable, then we're going to be more successful in applying technology to managing their disease states. And that's just critical. So in the US, we applied for patents. We've applied for 7 patents in this area. Our first 2 patents received 100% of their claims awarded by the US Patent Office and the International Patent Office. And as you're aware, that does not happen often. Our approach to this situation is novel enough that it was recognized both US and internationally to be free of any prior art. It's important that we also operate this on standard devices. So we operate on smart devices, smartphones, tablets, and other things that are easily accessible. If you go to the Apple or the Android store and you type in Canary Speech, you're going to see a half a dozen different apps. Those apps won't generally be available to you because they're parts of FDA trials, they're part of hospital studies, and they require special login. However, if you contact me and you're interested in taking a look at our technology, we're happy to do that. And if you have some ideas on how to improve our technology, we're also happy to talk with you.
So to summarize what you're saying, what I'm hearing that you're working on is, first of all, it's completely unique. You're the only person working on it, the only company, because when you filed for patents, you got approval on 100% of what you filed. It's that unique. Imagine what he's saying is that instead of asking people, are you stressed, are you sick, are you going to have Alzheimer's or dementia, you can have a conversation, and as they speak, things can be picked up by a voice device. And so this could revolutionize health in the near future, or certainly the distant future. So I think from all of us at the Voice Summit, we want to say thank you for what you're working on for humanity. And I genuinely mean that. I will be right back with another conversation in just a moment. Welcome again to the Voice Summit. I'm here for the post-demo interview. Henry, I'm extremely excited about what you and your company are working on. I'm grateful that the patents, you've had some promising response in that. So as far as what you were demoing, what's the next step for people? People say, I really want to know more about what Canary Speech is working on. Do they go to your website? Do they follow some sort of information flow? Like, how can they find out more about this exciting technology?
They can go to our website, canaryspeech.com. From there they can ask us for additional information if they would like. We're currently in a number of FDA drug trials as well as working with some hospitals. My hope is during next year these products will be launched more broadly. Yes. They're currently launched in a select group of individual hospitals. But it's exciting. I'm as excited as you are. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, I'm glad I could be here to infuse some passion. I'll be right back in just a moment. Thanks for joining us here at the Voice Summit.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Voice Summit. My name is Ian Utilli. I'm here with Ben, who is the VP of Sales for the Valence Group.
Valence, yep, that's
Valence
correct.
Group. And we're about to go sit down and do a fireside chat about all the things that Ben is working on. And so I just thought it'd be nice for the folks that are online to get to know you. So tell us a bit about you and your role at your company.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm the Vice President of Sales at Valence. We're a small to medium-sized services company out of Seattle. So when I say VP Sales, that usually means I do sales, but also delivery and also a little bit of development every now and then. So a lot of different things.
Wow.
But came up through the engineering side, and I love this space.
And we're going to talk about building voice solutions, but specifically for the enterprise.
Yeah, that's exactly right. We've been building in the enterprise for a while, and we really think there are some unique considerations and some unique design patterns when you're thinking about the enterprise space versus the consumer space.
Great. Well, I can't wait to talk about it, so we'll be right back on the main stage in just a moment. We're talking about building voice solutions for the enterprise, which is extremely important for most of the companies that are here. I'm here with Ben, the VP of Sales at, pronounce the company name one more time so I don't get it wrong. Oh.
Step one.
There you
turn on
go.
the mic. The company's name is Valence.
Okay, so Valence, and so we're just going to dive right in. So thank you for joining us, and here we go.
Awesome. All right. Well, hello, everybody. My name's Ben. Like you said, I work at Valence. Valence is a technology services company based in Seattle. We're focused on digital transformation for enterprise clients. What that means is we get to play with a lot of really cool tech. We're often dealing with some, come on. I'll go the old way. There we go. Good. Awesome. All right. So we're often dealing with leading edge technology in the enterprise space. That can mean a lot of different things. Oh, man. Sorry, man. Yep. No, that's the one. I'm failing a very basic test. Yeah, I'll do it this way. All right. I'm going to lean. So from a technology standpoint, that can mean a lot of different things. We're dealing with AI, ML, we're building IoT solutions, we're doing AR and VR applications. Certainly we're doing voice and chat. We're even getting into some leading edge things like distributed ledger. With that said, voice certainly plays a unique role in the work that we do. It's definitely a capability in and of itself, but it very much can be part of anything that we build, right? If we're building an AI system, we're thinking about how can we use voice to interact with these models. If we're building an IoT solution, we're thinking about how can I use voice to control this system. So voice potentially plays into almost everything we do. That's because at the end of the day, it's really just about interacting with digital systems. That could be any digital system. I won't give you the full sales pitch. I am on the sales team, but Valence has been around for a while. We've been doing this type of work with the enterprise for 4 or 5 years, I think, at this point, which for a lot of these digital assistants is about how long they've been around. We've worked with everything from small startups to Fortune 500 companies, so we certainly have some opinions on the right way to do this. So I think for the most part, I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've learned, what we've seen, what we think are some unique considerations in the enterprise space from a design perspective. And then if we have time, I can also talk a little bit about what we think is coming. Good? All right, back to it.
So Microsoft is one of your clients.
They are.
Largest company in the world.
Big one.
Really unique in the enterprise space. They have 30,000 enterprise sales reps that when they have software that's great for the enterprise, obviously they may push that through their enterprise channel, which goes out to the Global 2000.
For sure.
So when you work with a company at the scale of Microsoft, are you working to build tech inside one of their departments? Are you working to build tech for them that they use themselves, that they sell to the enterprise clients? Give us some insight in terms of what you've done or what you'd like to do in that space.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And I laugh because you mentioned Microsoft, but we see this at every company. I'll say, first of all, a lot of the work that we do is for the enterprise itself. We've certainly done enterprise kind of pushing to the consumer, so Microsoft building a product that they're going to push out. But a lot of the work that we do is enabling enterprise functions in all sorts of different industries. So Microsoft, for example, and I'll just start there, a lot of the work that we've done is building out either voice or chat solutions that are used to, frankly, kind of free up data. I laughed at the very beginning because you mentioned, are we talking about a group or are we talking about a whole company? The big problem that we initially came into Microsoft to work with and work specifically around voice and chat was they had a large set of data, and this was kind of in their sales, sort of the sales part of their business, that no one was accessing. There was one specific team that was kind of all over it, and they wanted thousands of people using it, and dozens of people were using it. And that's because it was kind of a clunky web interface, and some of the tools weren't really there. And so they came to us and they said, can we use voice and chat to basically free this data, kind of get it out into this enterprise space so that people are using it? And that was the idea. So we built out both chat-driven solution as well as a voice-driven solution to be used by initially the sales teams, which at Microsoft is a very large set of individuals, but ultimately the entire enterprise. And again, that one was all just about, you've got data, but it's either hidden away or it's behind kind of a clunky interface, and we want to figure out how to easily get it into people's hands.
In terms of the scale of projects that you're focused on,
Yep.
or just in general, agencies that are working on services for the enterprise, what is the cycle? You know, you have a conversation, like it takes time to actually get a deal done. It takes time to build it, to launch it, to do A and B testing, to iterate, to have it supported. Can you just talk to us about your experience of what is, or maybe even cast some vision of what you'd like to see?
Yeah, for sure. That actually gets to kind of a core concept that we've seen for a while, and not just about voice, actually. So let's see, what's a good? In 2008, I got an iPhone, and that was, before that I was using some flip phone, and that was the first time I was really using mobile applications to do things like shop and email and social and whatever else, right? At the time, I was working at a big enterprise company, and it wasn't long before I was coming into work and saying, whatever the problem of the day is, this problem wouldn't exist if we had a mobile app. Same thing happened with the cloud, right? As soon as people started adopting like cloud-first behaviors, streaming media versus owning a digital copy or a physical copy, then they're coming into work, into the enterprise space, and saying, why am I dealing with a website? Why am I dealing with some custom application as a consumer? Why can't I just talk to the system? So the exact same thing is happening right now with voice. People are using it in the consumer space, at home, right, with Cortana, Alexa, Siri, whatever else. They're getting really comfortable with the interface. And then we have enterprise clients coming to us and saying, I'm sitting across the table from an employee that's really comfortable using a digital assistant to shop, or I'm trying to sell to consumers that are really comfortable using a smart speaker to control their lights or something. And all those people are coming into the enterprise space and saying, again, why am I using your website? Why do I have to download your app? Why can't I just talk to the system? So that idea of consumer demand driving, or I should say consumer adoption, driving demand in the enterprise space is where it all begins for us. So more often than not, a client's coming to us, and either internally or externally, someone's using voice. Some set of people that they're working with is using voice and coming into the enterprise space and essentially demanding it. We've seen it go, and probably not a surprise from, early days when enterprises are talking about it, but I'll say it's a lot like distributed ledger now, where 4 years ago, where it's like, we've heard a voice, we kind of know what you can do with this, but we're not sure if we want to invest in it, to proof of concepts a few years ago, to honestly today, customers are coming to us doing core business, or implementing voice solutions that touch their core business. I guess to your question, it's often a progression. Like any other technology, our clients start with, they get their feet wet one way or another. Microsoft is a great example. Start with a small piece of data, start with a small set of data, start with a small audience and deploy it and see how it works. Not to go off at a total tangent, but one of the great things about voice, which I love from a developer standpoint, is you get a view into what people try to do that completely fails, right? If I'm developing a website, like from an analytics standpoint, I can see where people click, I can see where they go, I can see where they dwell and that sort of thing, but I can't see if they come to the website looking for an upload photo page and there's just no, or upload photo button, and there's just no button, right? Like I don't see that happened. In voice, you absolutely see that, right? And so in the enterprise space, all of those failed utterances, those failed inputs often become a roadmap for enterprise apps. And that's exactly what happened with Microsoft. So we began small audience, saw what worked, saw what didn't work, saw what they expected, saw what they were trying to do, but the app just wasn't capable, and built that out and out and out until we were touching more people, touching more data, and frankly getting closer and closer to core business functions.
If you're all right, I'd like to take a question from
yeah.
folks here in a moment. So if you want to ask a question in a moment, be prepared. I'm going to ask another one, and then we'll try to interact with the folks that are here.
Cool.
So is there a project too big? Let me frame this up for you, okay? A large Global 2000 company comes, they say, hey, these are our 3 biggest problems we want to solve in the next decade. We've set aside $100 million to solve one of these problems with voice. Or we've set aside $10 million to solve one of these problems in voice.
Yep.
Is voice developed enough that an agency like yourself could put together a reasonable scope of work in the 8-figure, 9-figure space
Right.
to actually build out voice tech
Yep.
to solve major issues for the Global 2000? Tell me the answer is $1 billion.
Yeah, great news, guys. It's huge. No, there are so many things I want to say to that. Let's see. I'll say first from the types of scenarios that you would want to tackle with voice are a little bit different, I think, in the enterprise space than they are in the consumer space. I want to just call out a few things. This is a rabbit hole I could go down for the next 3 hours, but to try to keep it brief, and maybe we can do some questions or whatever, a few things to call out in the enterprise. One is oftentimes, well, no, we don't need to pull that up, but oftentimes in the enterprise space, there are some assumptions you can make that you can't really make in the consumer space. Generally speaking, for consumers, I can assume, A, they're, if not more tech literate, at least more tech enthusiastic, right? Like I bought an Echo for a reason, right? There's an Echo in my kitchen because I wanted to check out voice, right? I wanted to see if this was something that I could use in my home and if it was fun for the family and whatever else. What I need help on is understanding just the underlying functionality of any given application. And so when you're designing an application, you're thinking, how do I help the user kind of just get to know the functionality, get to know the data? In the enterprise space, that's almost perfectly flipped. Every enterprise client we worked with understands the data. They understand the underlying functionality of what we're building. Like we recently built a solution around inventory management, and the company that we were working with totally understood their inventory management system. The hard part was some of the people just weren't that psyched about voice, right? Like you're going to be deploying to a really diverse enterprise audience, and most of them are looking at a new piece of hardware and a new interface for a job that they already do, and they're not sure why they need this new thing in their whole space. That's a big challenge. And so there are a few layers to this, but the very beginning one is when you're thinking about just beyond the simple dialogue to like, how am I nudging people or how am I providing help context? In the enterprise space, it tends to be a lot more about helping them get comfortable with the interface and a lot less about helping them understand the underlying data. Now, of course, there are exceptions, but that's a big one for the enterprise. I guess 2 more real quick, and again, stop me on like hour 4, but 2 more real quick. One is the enterprise space, people are going to be moving around a lot throughout their day. Depending on the industry, it's all going to be a little bit different. But it's not unusual for people to be moving and for people to have very different information needs depending on where and when they are throughout their day. And so a real focus on the actual physical space, like understanding the actual physical workflows as someone goes throughout their workday in the enterprise is a really important piece of this. We often try to think of like, you talk about digital assistants, and again, everybody's comfortable with Cortana and Alexa and those sorts of things, but imagine if you could just carry it around with you, right? Like at the end of the day, voice is a mobile experience. It can be a ubiquitous experience. And so you need to think about how do I, whether it's a mechanic on a factory floor or somebody sitting in a conference room or somebody in a retail space, how are they moving and how are their needs changing over time? And the last one, I promise, is how that interacts with all the other ways that they're already touching digital systems, right? Like if we're talking about an inventory management system or CRM, people are going to touch that through a website, through a mobile app, maybe from the command line, maybe from like an API, from other applications. Throughout their workday, they're going to be interacting with these core systems in a ton of different ways. And now you're introducing voice. So there's, you can't design voice solutions in a bubble. You need to be very aware of all of the other ways that people are interacting with these digital systems and design for that. Make voice shine where voice shines. Make it take a back seat where it's supposed to take a back seat. And the ideal thing is make it work with other interfaces if that's available. One kind of classic one for us is when we're building a voice solution, and this happens all the time in kind of enterprise data sets, and somebody says, give me the list for all, I don't know, tell me all parts that need to be reordered. If that list is like too long, sure, that's fine. Alexa can just say that back to you. If that part's 20 long, that's going to be an absolutely terrible experience. And oftentimes the best thing is for the voice assistant to respond with, hey, I emailed it to you. Or like, you know, I texted it to you, those sorts of things. The way a human would, right? Like if I asked my coworker Jared here, what's our reorder? And he started, what's our reorder report? And he started saying things over and over and over for 30 different items. I'd like call an ambulance. Instead, Jared would probably just say, hey man, I'll shoot it over to you. And I'll say, yeah, that sounds great, we'll check it out. So now to get to your, to the like, so that's kind of how I wanted to start there because we have clients come to us and say, we want to build a voice solution. And then we'll say, what do you want to build? And they'll say, we don't really know yet. That's a bad place to start. You need to, like any other tech, voice is no different. You need to start with what are you trying to do? What are you trying to accomplish, right? Who are your users? And kind of unpeel that onion over and over and over. And then figure out where and if voice fits. And it doesn't always fit. There are potentials for huge voice solutions. Like I do think that's true just in terms of scale and size and the impact that it can have in an enterprise. Not to ramble too much, but in terms of the state of the tech, a story that I love to tell is I have a 4-year-old daughter. So I don't know if I've made it apparent already. We have Alexa devices at home. All right, we have an Echo in the kitchen. We got a smart home setup and all that stuff. So my daughter and I are often downstairs in the morning. We're making breakfast. We're like entertaining ourselves with Alexa, playing music or animal sounds. I am like I know all of the apps for kids. I am a very proud parent, but setting that aside, I'll try to say this neutrally, which is my daughter's a far better communicator than Alexa. She's 4. And that's not a knock on Amazon. Like they're all at that level. She's 4 now. She's been getting frustrated with Alexa this year because she knows what it's supposed to do, and it's not doing it. And that's led to like some really weird 4-year-old like what is Alexa conversations. That's a whole other thing. But there's real value for voice right now in the enterprise, but there is a huge runway on where it's going to go, and it's going to go there. And I'll wait, but believe me, I would love to tell you about that. But we're kind of in early days. But just like a lot of the other spaces we play in, AR, VR, frankly, like real IoT, real machine learning, and I would put voice in the same place. The people that are going to succeed with this technology in 5 years, and it's going to be incredible in 5 years. Love to talk about it. Incredible in 5 years. The people that are going to succeed in 5 years are the ones that are investing right now. Anybody playing catch up in 5 years is going to have another 2 or 3 years before they're actually doing something with this, and you're always going to play that game. Now's the time, and that goes for a lot of tech, but that's absolutely true for voice.
I have 2 little boys, one's 6, one's 10, and my 6-year-old loves talking to the chat bot on Alexa. Yeah. But oftentimes, throughout the conversation, he'd be like, I'm mad at you, Alexa.
Yeah. Yes.
Because he's frustrated that the machine cannot communicate with him as well as the first graders in his class. He's like, come on, you're like Alexa, right? So we obviously have some way to go. You didn't fully answer my question in terms of scope and budget, so let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Instagram is valued at about $100 billion. It's a photo app that started off as an iOS app for iPhones, right? So that's an example of huge scale companies.
Yep.
So if somebody comes and says, hey, we want to build a major app on voice, and they say, I mean, I don't want to give you a scope. I just want to talk about, like, what in your mind is like, hey, guys, like, there's only so much that we can do today.
Sure.
So at the very, very top scale, right? And let's say it's multi-language. It's the top 25 languages in the world that it can hear and understand. It is a enterprise that's building it and paying for it.
Yep.
Whether it's a B2B app or a consumer app, insignificant to me. What I'm wondering, as a VP of sales at a significant company, is there a limit to the type of job that you would, or your peers would roll your sleeves up and be like, absolutely. It might take 7 years, but we're all in. It might take $98 million, but we're all in. Let's do this. So that's my question on scope and timing and things of that nature, because the reality is, when people watch this video in 3 years or in 13 years, they're going to wonder what you thought.
No, that's totally fair. To be clear, I'm in sales, so we'll take any amount of money. So it's trillions. No, in all seriousness, though, I get your question. Let me tell you what that project looks like. Because your point's well taken, which is if I constrained myself to, let's say, what's available today. I'm going to try to put some boundaries around this. What's available today from the major platforms, Amazon, Microsoft, Google, IBM, so on and so forth, for around NLU and NLP, the major bot frameworks and that sort of thing, for voice and for chat. Fair point. That's a fairly limited, frankly, set of functionalities. It's a really great starting place. And like I say, with Microsoft, that is all we did with them, and it democratized an enormous amount of data and made real, actual change to their enterprise. But to your point, that wasn't a multi-million-dollar project. It was less, sure. But in terms of like where the ceiling for this lives, and this is a really important point, it's when you start combining voice with other technologies. I'll go back to my daughter if you don't mind. Because really I think this is a key reason why she gets frustrated with Alexa. When we build an AI solution at our company to do a specific task, it almost, frankly, every time will outpace human beings. If it's a game, if it's medical diagnostics, that's right, image recognition, it is always better than human beings. Language is not on that list yet. Language understanding is getting better and better. But the big reason, and I really think this is true, watching my little 4-year-old interact with it, is all of the ways that we communicate that have nothing to do with the words that are coming out of my mouth, right? Like I'm talking to you now, or all of you, or whoever else. I have some context on who you are. I have some context on what you understand and what you're learning in this presentation. I know your mood, general disposition, if you're paying attention, if you're not paying attention, all of those things, right? The thing is, and why I would absolutely take on a big project in the enterprise space right now, all of those, everything I just listed, AI systems can recognize today. AI systems can tell who I am, and they can tell if I'm having a good day or not. They can tell if I want the long answer or the short answer. They have context on what I know and what I'm learning. And those things are, we're seeing this today, people are talking about this in the conference, more and more getting built into what we are calling voice assistant. And we're really transitioning away from just voice to this idea of conversational UI, the idea of these interfaces having emotional context. I always like to joke because I'll mention that and people kind of, really? Because you imagine like my Alexa on my conference table, do I want my Alexa to know like my mood? Maybe not. Like there's certainly a place for just lo-fi simple interfaces. But think about like an emergency room. Or think about like a courtroom, or think about a combat scenario. Think about any emotionally charged human situation. Would I want, if I were using voice in that context, for it to be a little more emotionally aware? I actually might. And those projects are huge. Like if I'm talking about combining a really sophisticated voice assistant with AI, with some sort of recognition, with some concept of mood and carrying context over any number of conversations and all of that, that's a multi-million-dollar project. I mean, that's really big. And that's incredibly powerful. And I will say that's leading edge. We've worked with a ton of enterprise companies. There's a small chunk that are making that type of investment, but they are reaping huge benefits from that type of thing.
So I think I'd like to take a question from somebody in the audience. The way I'm going to do this is you raise your hand, And I'm going to throw the Google Frisbee at you. And that means you get to ask it the question. You're going to say it loud. I'm going to repeat it for those that are watching, and then Ben will answer it. If he doesn't have an answer, then I'll pick somebody else from the audience to answer it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And the reason for throwing the Frisbee is I just like to have fun. That's the reason. Would anybody like to ask a question from Ben? If you would, raise your hand. If nobody raises their hand, I'm just going to throw this at somebody and force somebody. Oh, there we go.
It's rough.
All right, here it comes. Here we go. It's very soft. Very soft.
That's the test.
See,
You
that was so
passed.
easy.
Well
That was
done.
so easy. Okay, so speak very loud so I can repeat your question.
Oh. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
for those watching online, the question is, have you started a project? You get into the project, hopefully not too deep, and it's like, oh, definitely not a good idea. Let's pivot, let's stop, let's make a shift or a change.
Yep.
So that is the question. Thank you so much for asking. And let's see, you want to throw the Frisbee back? Here we go.
Yeah.
So close.
That's on you.
It was, I wanted to jump over.
That'd been
I
awesome.
wanted to dive, but I
Yeah.
still I have to stay healthy.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. And I've got that one. I will say absolutely. I've got a few coworkers here. They know this. I have talked clients out of voice like on day zero. Like before, people have come in asking for voice, starting with voice. And we you do discovery sessions. You get on the whiteboard, and it becomes very clear that that's not the way you should be going. You should be going a completely like we should fundamentally shift the technology that we're talking about. It's always nice if it happens on day zero, but just to be clear, I've done that before. I'm not a voice salesperson by any stretch of the imagination, but I do love the tech. Where we started into a project going down voice and have pivoted, has absolutely, and you know this one, has been in the retail space. Because it's such a great experience. And it's such a personal experience, and especially in retail when I have people in a store and a limited number of associates. Enterprise companies, not to name, but enterprise companies love the idea of having a really rich voice experience in the front or somewhere where I can engage and explore products and feel welcome, and maybe even if it recognizes me, that's super cool, right? And I get it. Like, that's a great experience. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but voice, depending on the hardware, can get really touchy from just, I'm like deep in the logistics, but literally just an understanding from like a can it understand what I'm saying standpoint. And we were midway through a significant retail project where we had been building in a very sanitized environment that the client provided, and everything, of course, worked beautifully in that environment. And then when we got our first, basically our MVP, it was halfway through probably development, we go out into a real store and it's like nothing works, and it's a complete disaster. And so we absolutely pivoted away. And that was what we ended up doing, was pivoting to, of course, just accessing NLP through chat is still a great experience. And so using a lot of the same underlying technology, but just pivoting to a bit different of an interface. And then, frankly, just restructuring the experience, right? Delighting people maybe not with the voice interaction, but with the recognition piece. If it can see me and I can maybe play a game where it guesses my age or whatever, or of course, if it recognizes me, maybe good, maybe bad. But pivoting to sort of more delightful technologies in the retail space is what we ended up doing there. But it's not unusual. I mean, frankly, the most common scenario, I would say, if you were designing bad voice solutions where you weren't working with your users from day one and just making really kind of uninteresting dialogues and interaction, that happens. Hopefully we don't do that, and I'd like to say we don't, but that certainly happens. But the one that we bail out most often, that hopefully we're getting smarter and smarter about, is actually just ambient noise and like accessibility and that kind of thing, right? Like, does voice make sense in every situation? It's probably not. I mean, even here, it might be a little tricky. I'm not going to do a live demo on this stage.
I have unlimited questions. But if anybody else would like to ask a question, you got 5 seconds to throw your hand up. Okay, here comes the Frisbee. Here it comes. I can
No,
throw,
you
I
have,
can
you have
throw
to
it
stand where you were.
Nice catch. So, name and company loud, and the question, I'll repeat it.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Yeah. Totally. Yeah.
So Sean from Black & Decker, nice frisbee throw, Sean.
Well done, Sean.
Having fun here on the expo stage. So the question is, somebody comes to you, like Black & Decker, they can't wait to do a big project, so
I like where this is
prepare for
going.
that, request for proposal. They come, they say, hey, we want this big project done. You say, absolutely, let's do it. And then you realize, well, you guys just simply aren't prepared. You don't have the information. How do you navigate a situation like that?
Yep, this happens all of the time. I would say setting aside just voice, like every type of technology that we play with, the number one kind of most important question once you have an idea of what the project is where's the data, or like what data is available, because that, as you hinted, will potentially immediately limit what you can and can't do. So not unusual, and not unusual with voice at all. I would say here the good news is this. More and more companies, and I don't know, but more and more companies, just generally speaking, enterprise companies, are moving toward, I would say, modern data practices and just cloud-first type architectures, right? Like, I've been in this space for a while, but even thinking like from 2014 to now, it's a sea change in terms of people's adoption of just really basic, like a data lake, or like just moving to AWS or Azure and those sorts of things. And so that's good news for any technology, right? Any application is going to benefit from that. With that said, that's not helpful if you're not there yet. And so what we often do, and voice is really built for this, frankly, voice and chat, is just start small. I know that feels really obvious, but voice is so extensible in a way that other technologies are not, that it's actually a really great strategy. I guess what I'm saying is, if I were dealing with a web application or a mobile app or whatever else, obviously I'd say the same thing, like start small, and then we'll expand and expand and expand. But adding features and adding functionality on a mobile app or a web app is kind of a big deal. Like, you're thinking about new screens, you're thinking about new UX, you're building APIs, blah, 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 blah. Voice is made to be extensible. Like, it is not hard to add a set of functionalities within a voice situation, either simple Q&A or a workflow or whatever else. Get that out there, see how people are using it. And as your data comes more and more online and becomes more and more accessible, which I should say is also work that we do, but as it does, then you're able to plug in additional interactions with a voice scenario without having to build out any other infrastructure, right? That's what's really kind of exciting about voice, is that extensibility, frankly. So, I mean, there's no great answer. There's no magic. I will say, actually, there is a little bit of magic, and I won't take credit for it, but Microsoft, Amazon, I'm sure the others, they're all great, but at least those two, have been building a number of really great tools to automate a lot of structuring of unstructured data specifically for NLP. It's not anything earth-shattering yet, if I'm just being totally transparent, but they are building some kind of layers above the data storage piece that can enable interactions as simple as like a back and forth question and answer type interaction somewhat automatically. So frankly, when someone comes to us and they say, I've got a big data set and I want people to just to query it, I mean, we will charge for that, but not a lot. Like, that's a really simple project. Where it gets interesting is kind of going beyond that. So there are some great enablement tools that exist right now on the public cloud platforms, and that's only going to get better, I'm sure. So that's a problem that will, I think, improve very rapidly. We're kind of in the middle, frankly. Like 2 years ago, it was pretty rough. Now I'm like, we can probably do something, and it's only going to be better this time next year. Did I get it, mostly? Yeah, all right.
So it feels like this industry is, even though it's not new, and it's been really been developed for decades, the whole entire NLP, voice as the interface over machine learning, interacting with people, like, it really has been going on for a while. It's just that it hit the consumer market with a fury in the last several years.
Right.
So first, let me just ask this question. How many peers does Valence Group have? Like, how many agencies are out there that can currently build tech for the enterprise? Because Global 2000, that's just the top 2,000 companies globally.
Yep.
Like, are there even 2,000 competitors to serve them? Like, just give us a scope of how big the industry is right now.
We're the only ones. No, I'm just kidding. We're not. So my business cards are right here.
And all of a sudden, all the other agencies are upset.
Yeah. No, we're not the only ones.
My name is Ian Utilli. I do not approve this message.
I'll say a couple things because it is 2 years ago was new. 2 years ago, like, voice wasn't new, but like really doing voice in the enterprise was still, I mean, that was still getting its legs under it, I'd say. Like on core business type functionality. That's changed. And so there are plenty of companies, I think, that will build you a voice skill and maybe do some technology work in the voice space. Or excuse me, just do some technology in the enterprise space, pardon me. I would argue what's still getting worked out and where we think, not to make a total sales pitch on you guys here, but where we think we really have some special sauce is design principles and practices specific for the enterprise. And that's kind of what I got into a little bit earlier. But there's one thing to build consumer apps, and there are a lot of okay consumer apps and some really excellent consumer apps. That's true. It's another thing to build enterprise apps, and at the same time, there are a lot of enterprise apps, and there are a few really incredible ones. I would like to very much think that we are in sort of that last segment because we've been part of the process of developing custom approaches and design practices around the enterprise space. But I mean, in all seriousness, though, we are not the only ones. And I'll say that because I suspect many of you are in the space as well. But there are a lot of people doing this work.
How about secret sauce? You know, somebody comes to you and they're going to build a request for proposal for you. Maybe they're going to push it out to 1 or 3 other competitors that don't exist, or they might want to give it to their internal team. Like, hey, we're going to put it out for bid, and also our innovation team or whatever it may be, like, you bid on it as well. Do you sign NDAs? Is that asked by the enterprise that you sign NDAs? Do you think NDAs are important in this industry? Should things be patented before they actually start to explain it? Does it matter what people say publicly on film, being that they might be giving secret sauce away when they start thinking out loud and ideating? Like, how important in your mind are secrets that could potentially be patented that people use as a standard in 2 years or 20 years? And how do you counsel the enterprise prospects on that? Because that's, I mean, to me, that's a pretty interesting thing, right? Because a lot of the things that everybody will do in 10 or 20 years is still being thought of today. So talk to us a bit about protecting intellectual property, if that's a thing that matters to your organization, why or why not?
Yeah, and it's a good question. So we certainly sign NDAs. That's just part of our business. And frankly, I mean, we would absolutely sign an NDA, but our clients, like if you work with Microsoft, you're signing an NDA. That's how it works in the enterprise space. Every enterprise company is signing an NDA. In terms of, if I were thinking about IP, about actual like design practices, kind of, again, what I would say is a special sauce at Valence, if I were thinking about IP around that, that's actually, we tend to not think of our business that way, and for a really specific reason, which is this and all of the other technologies that we are working with are just changing so quickly. And whatever our special sauce is today in July of 2019 will be significantly different in July of 2020. And it will be, that will be the same for everything that we do in the tech space. We're a services company, so it's a different model, right? We are not selling IP. We're selling basically our expertise and our capabilities. And when you're doing that, your job is to stay ahead, right? Like a major part of the way that our company thrives and continues to live is just staying on the cutting edge. And so while I can imagine a version of our company that would focus on something like developing the quote special sauce for voice solutions and then making that a product, our kind of view on it and our sort of strategy as a company is that things are changing so fast that isn't viable for us. We have to stay the leaders in terms of doing this type of technology and focus on kind of that expertise as our product, and to a lesser extent, actually kind of putting down on IP the actual process. It'll be totally different in a year, and we'll be there.
I have time for one more question. If you'd like to ask Ben a question, throw your hand up, and I will throw you the Google Frisbee. If nobody puts their hand up, I will throw the Google Frisbee to somebody,
The Frisbee's intimidating.
and you will be asking a question.
These guys are plants.
Anybody?
Just wanna be
Anybody?
clear.
All right, here it comes. How about to you? I can tell. I can tell it.
Oh.
I can tell. You want? Here you go. It's coming. Okay, there we go.
You
touched
you
it.
just don't touch
It's
it.
too late. That's
So-
how we roll here at the expo stage.
So much pressure.
Kathy, do you have a question for? Yeah, if that was spun
was
around,
planned.
we'd have a real issue. Kathy, do you have a question for Ben
Insurance.
from the insurance industry?
Sure.
That was me.
That's
That was me. It's for all of history. It's live streamed. My great grandkids are going to make a
They'll
meme
know.
out of it where I missed. And it's the boomerang back and forth. Look, the dude can't even catch his own frisbee. The question is,
Yeah.
you marketing farmers? I know I have glasses for a reason, so I can see the badge. So, insurance.
Yep.
Are you working with insurance companies? If not, do you want to? What type of things do you navigate? Keep in mind, this is kind of the last question, so maybe wrap it up
Arc it.
after you answer it.
Put a bow on it. Okay, got it. Yes, so we have and do work with insurance companies. I will say, specifically to insurance, one of the biggest scenarios that we've kind of looked at is something we haven't talked about today at all, but is one of the larger enterprise to consumer applications of voice that we do, which is the idea of essentially triaging incoming calls or insurance claims and those sorts of things, right? When we've looked and done that type of work in the insurance space, it's been about voice, but it's also been about other tech, right? That's about just fielding the incoming call, getting people to the information that they need and triaging appropriately, getting them to a human being if that's where they need to end up as well. But it's also, depending on how broadly you want to cast the net, about things like using text kind of understanding tools to ingest claims reports and those sorts of things, right? I'll say we do work in the insurance space, and the biggest application is that, which is sort of the insurance to their consumers application. I'm sure there are many others, but I'll just off the top of my head, that's absolutely number one. But with that said, and maybe to put a tiny little bow on it, I would expect there are a number of internal applications of voice as well, like we see in every company, that just to get data into employees' hands more easily. And that's kind of, I would say, the number two on where we would think about how to apply this type of tech to insurance.
I'm going to wrap up this time with this thought. So, we're here talking about enterprise for the voice space. It's important today, but soon it will be completely vital. Like, the fact is, unless Elon Musk and his team can create a Neuralink thing that doesn't have hardware going in your head,
Someday.
like, even if I am down to beta, I'm not alpha testing it, I'm not going to prototype it, and I'm one of maybe 1 million people that would be willing to put something in my head to communicate with a computer. The majority of people in the world can't even read and write, so we have to have this voice tech so that people can speak and listen and actually communicate with technology. That's just a fact. Like, voice is the last interface. So enterprise is going to lead that pretty soon. You know, yesterday we did this really cool hackathon. Samsung and Amazon and Twilio, they sponsored this hackathon that we did yesterday on the voice space. I had this idea as we were talking, and I'd love your feedback on it, and hopefully something will birth out of this idea. Imagine you and all of the competitors that don't exist coming together, and all those that would like to be in the voice space, and even the internal teams. Like, everybody that wants to create voice for the enterprise comes together. And the sole purpose of the hackathon is who can come up with the most ridiculously large and ambitious scope of work as a request for proposal. And the team that comes up with the largest request for proposal for the most difficult, complex, scaled enterprise application of voice technology wins the grand prize. And maybe the company that sponsors is like, hey, let's pick it up and actually dive in for the one that actually has the biggest ambitious idea. If that was a thing, which I'm like on the edge of making it a thing. Like I'm almost gone from idea, I spoke it, now pretty much I'm going to do it.
We're doing this.
Would that be interesting to you and the folks that you work with? Like, hey, let's just all get together and like get the biggest dreams out there so we can actually start casting vision for what could be.
Yeah, without a doubt. To keep it short, where voice is powerful and delightful and valuable in the enterprise is when people are thinking beyond just the simple kind of guardrails and guidelines that exist from the major platforms, which are the tools we use, to be clear, but thinking beyond just those guardrails and inventing the sort of next set of technology that's going to sit on top of these NLP engines. There is so much space between, and I think you all must know this, but there's so much space between the underlying neural network that's doing kind of their magic and the actual interaction. And that space is where the cool stuff happens. That's where the dialogues are built. That's where there is some emotional intelligence. That's where context is carried. And that it's just so big. And when you see an app that actually utilizes that space and doesn't just do the simple thing at the bottom, that's where it's really incredible. I will say, to your point about the Elon Musk brain melding, this sounds nuts, but I absolutely believe it. I mean, the truth is language is such a fundamental part about how our minds work and how we view the world and how our brains are structured. And so, truly, aside from being able to plug a USB, dongle into the side of my head, language is kind of the way to, plug myself into a digital system. That's the next step before we get into Elon Musk's crazy world. So until then, like that is how rich this medium can be. But the only way that it is kind of what you're talking about, which is kind of throw out the rules, everybody get together, hear the tools, and just make something incredible. But it's all of the pieces are there. Everything is there for you to do this today.
Well, I enjoyed getting to know you. Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you.
I'm going to make the unofficial announcement that will definitely, probably not happen, is the Valence Group is going to sponsor this epic event that we're going to do together where everybody comes together and gets their ambitious ideas out. And then you guys are going to capitalize on it and get some big deals.
Yeah,
so in advance.
I'm in.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And for those watching the live stream, we'll be back in just a moment. Welcome to the Voice Summit. I'm here with my new friend Ben, and we just had a fun interview.
It was great.
Why should people watch it, right? Because there's 45 minutes. We live in a world where people give you 45 seconds. So why should people sit down and actually listen to you and I exchange? We took some questions from the audience. Why is it worth people's time to tune in for 45 seconds? And after he answers, if you swipe up, we don't have the swipe up built, but we'll probably will. You'll be swiping up on Instagram stories. But give the pitch. Why should they listen to our convo?
Yeah, for sure. So we talked about it a lot. It was a good time. But the truth is, from our perspective, when you're designing voice solutions for the enterprise, there are two big pieces. One is just all of the great design practices that come from the consumer space, and I know a lot of people are talking about that today. Those all carry over. Any consumer issue is going to be an enterprise issue because that's what people are used to. On the other hand, though, real experience and understanding on just deploying this type of technology in the enterprise space is needed as well. And so our kind of position, and this is really proved out in our business, is that a unique approach on design concepts and dialogue design and data access specific to voice in the enterprise is absolutely required. And that's what we talked about.
Yes. So we do encourage you to watch that. Voice Summit. Why be here? What does it take for this conference to exceed your expectations?
For sure.
What would bring you back next year? The business development guys are listening. They can't wait to set a bigger sponsorship. You're welcome for setting you up. But talk to me about this event.
Yeah, for sure. Couple of things. There are a lot of good voice solutions out there in the world, consumer and enterprise. There's a small subset that are excellent. Yeah. The excellent ones are, and I really do believe this, the excellent ones are leaning on a lot of the creative, forward-looking technologies that I've seen already today at Voice. So part of my excitement is just, we're going beyond just the simple stuff that I could get online from some of the big providers' documents. We're doing some really incredible stuff here at Voice, which is super cool. The other piece, and I talked about it a little bit just now, is the idea of combining voice with other technologies, with AI, with IoT tech, and where that goes. I've seen a lot of that so far. If that's where this grows into, I'm here next year for sure.
That's great.
Yeah.
And if you want to get a hold of you, it's live stream, so personal cell phone number would be. So if they want to get a hold of you or your company, what's the process? They go online, fill out a form, they email you directly, or your assistant's assistant?
Yeah, sure. So you can go online. We're at valencelevel.com. Check out the website, and you can contact us through the site. And my name's Ben. Email's benp@valencelevel.com. You can certainly reach out to me as well.
Great. Well, from all of us at Voice, especially myself, thank you.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you very much. It was
We're
great.
glad to have you here. And that was a fun conversation.
Thank you.
We'll be back in just a moment with some more.